We're good. Oh my gosh. Hi, William. This
Hey,
is so
how are you,
exciting.
sweetheart? This is such an honor and such a blast. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I'm so stoked to have you in this environment and to talk with all these wonderful people about what's going on the planet and with the dolphins and the whales and everything going on with you. And so, yeah, pretty exciting, pretty exciting.
Yeah, and so many changes going on at the same time, but also everything being sped up, accelerated. Like, you look at the COVID stuff, then you look at the oceanochrome stuff, you look at what's going on land, off land, on planet, off planet, within the planet, and all the kingdoms. And it's just so amazing, isn't it? How everything's just being so beautiful. To go lighter, brighter, faster, and clearer with, just so much more ease and grace, but also so much more light and so much more light beingness coming in to the bodies, through the bodies, onto the planet, emanating, activating, and amplifying throughout all of creation as a whole, which are also affecting and accessing the blueprints of the DNA and also the whole physical manifestational consciousness all the way through the molecules, the atoms, the DNA, and the RNA, and then going from there through the pineal pituitary gland, the master cell, and really changing around all of your whole physical disposition to now you're reclaiming the body as your own rather than some sort of genetic gene pool from all of these different funky states of consciousness that it's kind of a head scratcher, right? Okay, my fathers had this, so now I'm kind of sentenced with it. Well, no, because it's not their body. It's your bodies you're stepping into. Male, female, it doesn't really matter. You're technically androgynous until you pick up a physical form. So, and that just goes to how much you're going to buy into the gender and all the, to-dos and all of that versus your pure essence, your pure creator benevolence, or your pure creator consciousness that is you coming into a body, obviously with different set of plumbing, but it's so humorous like that because we get into the divine masculine, divine feminine, and all these polarized dualistic states, but we go back full circle to who are you? What are you? Where are you? What's going on? How's it going on? And where you're singing and dancing and flourishing, really with all that is, as all that is. And it's kind of humorous, right? You look at tigers, you look at lions, bears, why not? And all the monkey kingdom, on and on and on, and how they don't operate by gender. They have their own pecking order, same with, wolves and packs, blah, blah, blah. But isn't it interesting how they don't sit around contemplating, painting their paws. They don't sit around contemplating what's going to be on sale at Macy's or Bloomingdale's. And they don't really care who barks up to them, barks down to them. It's such an interesting reminder. Same with the trees. It doesn't cry, whine, get worked up, get judgmental when it sheds its leaves and flowers and blossoms. It's already prepping and excited for the next unveilment of itself that's continuing to bloom, blossom, release, bloom, blossom all over again. It's like a reset, but then all the beauty, the multifaceted beauties that all of these kingdoms as a whole, they emanate, they radiate, they expand. They're constantly bringing in consciousness, bringing in light particles and particles of light that are flowing in, expanding out, flowing in, expanding out, and how it creates such a faster and faster momentum. Because the momentum levels is where even your vibratory levels in frequencies of megahertz of light are speeding up, expediting, and also the reactivation, reamplification of your crystalline matrix within and throughout the physicality, but also the vibratory principles in which your body vibrates cellularly and atomically, subatomically through the molecular structure in the speed of light. And they're actually called megahertz in light, megahertz of consciousness. But then, you talk about, okay, vibrating faster and faster and faster. Well, that's the easy part. Because if we all just gave ourselves a personal lobotomy, never judged anything again, had no more identification, you'd be vibrating off the planet. Right. Now it's how to enjoy it all without getting hijacked by the ego. Because you're not the ego. The ego's not you. You have a mind that processes all this stuff, but the mind is not the ego. The ego is still outside of all the perceptual judgments, decisions, and all these barriers and levels that you bought into, you took in to be a perception form of reality, and you commanded as creator, this is reality, bam. And then it's so. Just kind of like, let there be light. Well, let there be whatever other judgment.
Yeah, wow. Wow, Will. You know, your mind is just amazing. I mean, you're just like
Oh, thank you,
firing
sweetheart.
synapses like 100 miles an hour. We're just trying to catch up. Yeah, I mean, so that brings me to one of my first questions, and that is like, so there, so as the ascension process is happening, it's not just us humans that are ascending and going on this process. Like all the animals and all the beings and even planet Earth and everything else is ascending along with that as well, right? Going to
Yeah.
these different levels. And, you know, we just, of course, are just thinking of humans like, okay, we're going through, but not just humans are going through this ascension process. Is that correct?
Oops. Oh, there we are.
Yeah, it may go in
Okay.
and out. Just roll with it.
Yeah, just flowing and having fun with it. So what's the last part of what you were mentioning, sweetheart?
So I was saying that, you know, it's not just humans that are going through this ascension process. That's my question. You know, are we, you know, every being, every plant, every animal, the planet Earth is also going through this ascension process, and that's that expansion that you were just talking about.
Oh, completely. Because you got to remember the planet. It's a living deity. It's a living deity that, you know, you look at nature, you can see how alive it is. It's constantly booming, radiating, amplifying, and emanating. And then it goes through its processes like, you know, fire, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, those are all part of the planetary structure evolving, but also clearing its own decks as the beautiful crush that it is for brother humanity. And it's interesting because when I tune into it, it's like we're walking in and upon the whole perceptional Garden of Eden. And we walk through that in this constant evolving deity, this constant evolving life form, but yet it's so beautifully holding us in its perceptional hands, if it had some. And it's also raising your vibratory levels. But you see, the faster you're vibrating and evolving, so can the planet, so can the animals, the plants, on and on, because it's a dance up and back and forth, back and forth. So you accelerate and you affect the planet. Planet accelerates, the planet accelerates. It's lifting you up to where eventually we're going to be more and more on it, not of it, let's say, on it in, not really in it unless you're dead, because that's when they bury you. So you're on the crest of the planet on the matrix, but then where it's a beautiful symbiotic fluid dance. It's like you go swimming with the whales, the dolphins, some go swimming with sharks. But the thing is that there's not a certain black and whiteness. It's a certain flow because you go with the dolphins, you go with the whales and all these other kingdoms. And even the whales that started beaching themselves a few years ago, and dolphins did too at times, it's because all the magnetic, underlying magnetic, I guess I would say grids that they would normally follow, has all been switched. So they were still on these grids, but now they're going inland rather than what they would say migration, on and on and on. And it's kind of funny, like peculiar wise, because you correlate that with what's happening with brother humanity at that time, and you find there's these beautiful radiant amplifications that are going on. Even, you know, many have been sharing equators are going to flip and all that. Well, no, we didn't get to this point for humanity fall off the planet. We got to this point for the ascension
Well,
of the
that's
speeding up
comforting.
the vibratory level. Yeah, that's a win-win, right? One day you're in the middle of the desert, next day you have oceanfront property. You know, it's kind of interesting, right? So, you know, so it's this constant continuity of fluidity, vibrancy, radiance, evolvement, and merging and speeding up, amplifying up, radiating up, vibratorily, to where now we're getting to a point where we start going into your divine innate abilities and right back to your natural state, but I'll go as far as marrying the rest of you through the body principle. So you're bringing in your light bodies, you're bringing in your higher levels, you're bringing in you as creator expressing through form as you as a facet of creator that you are. And we're opening up all these portals, dimensional planes, going beyond the physical, but yet able to maintain the integrity within the physical. And then you watch even in the airways, like in the sky, when you let your eyes go out of focus and all those little particles dancing around, some look darker, some look lighter. Well, that's the mass collective thought forms that you're letting dissolve, purify, divinitize, and even those thought forms that are reaching a different radiance of vibratory principles and megahertz of light, that you're also opening up more and more portals, because now you're going further into it, further beyond it. And then there's the omnipotence, the radiance, the amplifiedness that continues to expand upon, and grow to where the whole, what I would call cosmic lattice work and all these other things, the astral planes of consciousness being cleared out, and all of the mass collective being cleared out, to where eventually there's not that separation even anymore with going direct within the whole universe, your creator benevolence. And I'm saying creator benevolence, it is you already, but now we're getting rid of all the stuff that have slugged up the pipes, saying goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And that part of it's happening naturally, and that has to do with you and the planet dancing side by side. And that's part of, you know, all these different groups that are coming out. What I look at more at exposure rather than groups, that everything's being seen, exposed, brought into a point of integrity on every level. Your humanity, animals, blah, 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 and the planet itself, brought into that exposure to now be given the opportunity to go further or to take a left turn or right turn again. But with all the exposure, humanity as a whole consciousness is saying enough's enough.
Well, didn't
with
we
all the
pass critical mass, and then now we're moving into...
No, we're beyond critical mass, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's in that state of unfoldment now.
So you talked about the lattice work. Now, are the whales involved with the grids?
Yes.
That are happening on the planet, and can you expand upon that?
Yeah, what they're doing, and it's part of the beauty that's made it on land, like when you're listening to theta music or, you know, the theta brain waves, even massage music, things like that, you'll find a lot of the sound of the whales. You'll play with it, even sometimes with alpha brainwave and beta, but mostly in theta, which is bringing you back to a level of pure creator consciousness, pure consciousness to a point where you're leaving behind all the busy thought forms, the busy perceptions, busy identifications, all the emotional attributes. And what happens, these different tones that the whales are speaking out, usually sometimes in groups, sometimes all alone. They're communicating with the planet. The planet is communicating back. They're also communicating with humanity, but it's this beautiful enrichment of frequencies and tones that are communicating, integrating with. So when you get into the land masses, everyone and everything that are on the land, they start to receive these beautiful jolts. That's
Losing your internet a little bit. I'm sure it'll come back. Maybe you could, I'm gonna Reiki his computer. You could do that. It's not
harmonic.
We're back. Sorry, some kind of internet glitch.
Yeah. So whales letting their presences be known with all the different vibratory frequencies. But then we get into the dolphins. We get into the sharks, which are technically, they're still graceful, but they're also what I would call a cleanup crew. You know, or the Gong, the stick fishies, and really protecting the planet from getting ill itself, per se. But then you look at the porpoises. What a great reminder of playfulness, vibrancy, open-heartedness, but yet they're some of the best doctors on the planet when it comes to pointing out physical symptomologies. Like things that
has been documented. Yeah, where people have gone into the water and they didn't even know that they had a cancer or a tumor somewhere, and the dolphin would like focus or even touch that part of their belly, and then they get home and find out that they have something going on.
And the beautiful thing is when they do that, they're actually singling it out as a pinpoint of expression. And right when they tap and otherwise, they're actually sending forth frequencies from even their songs, but the high-pitched tones that start bringing that area to a head to escalate the dissolvement and healing process. So they already start the healing process, and then you look at from there, you know, they're in a beautiful state. It's interesting because I look at the dolphins, and then the next ones are the orcas, the killer whales that present as well, that they're such mystical beings that they're constantly in communion with the Pleiadians and Pleiades, bringing forth those different arrays, bringing forth the different, they're technically encodements of consciousness. Because if you can imagine just one particle of consciousness that has all of these different symbols upon it, then eventually it gets integrated and it expands. That's the whole thing around downloading. So it expands, and all this data and information presents itself in different codes and frequencies. And that's where you use your mind. Your mind can filter, it can analyze, and bring it to a comprehensive form of understanding. Now you go through these kingdoms like the porpoises, that it's so interesting, you know, like that, they're just as much connected to, looks like the white tigers and the white lions. Now you go there and you look at how, for one, they assist big time with healing. They assist big time, not as much as the whales, but a good amount of reactivating and amplifying the DNA, the RNA, youth vitality chromosomes in the body, even accessing the, what I would say, the pleasure center, but also the master cell. And I would say mostly the gray whales, the blue whales, sometimes the belugas. Pilots are more a grounding force, but they're all accelerating the activation, amplification, even through the frequencies and tones, but also they kind of just cut right through to the heart, but through the atoms and subatoms.
You know, that brings to mind this idea of, you know, light language that people are doing now. And is that kind of a similar activation that we're doing as humans that the dolphins, whales, and
like how so, sweetheart?
You know, the light language has a certain frequency, and the higher the frequency, you know, is that also having a similar effect?
And it's interesting, right? Because light language, a good amount of times, it starts, it's like start and then thud, start, thud, but not in a rhythmic state. Like some are higher frequencies, like higher octaves, some are lower octaves. The words that come out, I mean, of course, it sounds like someone had a stroke. But from here, yeah, I'm just teasing, but from here, it's not meant to make mental comprehensive sense.
Right.
That's part
it's
of
not cognitive. It's not a transmission on the cognitive level.
No, and you don't want it to be, because that just gets the mind involved again.
Right.
The buffers. Now, it's put in these different frequencies, different segments, and segues. Because what happens, it flows through the conscious mind, which is 20% of the brain. Then it goes through the 80% of the mind, which is a subconscious and emotional. Then it goes right to the source in the core of the soul level, all the way through your heart level. And it brings the higher levels down through, and more of you down and through. And then it sends off a whole different octave, because when I listen to it, it's like putting keys in different locks of consciousness and reactivating, reamplifying. And it's a lot of fun, because it breaks down the cognitive filters. And we'll go from there. I'll go into the ego part. And the ego can't find anything to grasp onto. It finds it disharming it, because the ego is at a lower vibratory level. So these high piercing frequencies are coming through and obliterating it from the inside out and the outside in. Like everything, childhood memories, incarnational memories, and the womb memories. And it's not just memories, it's all these decisions that were made at that time through the psyche and the subpsyche, and then got blocked, and all this other energy that would pass, now it's called emotion, because this energy with judgment, well, it gets stopped up, and that's what you call going postal.
I'm going to ask another question. This is from David Russell. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here. He's busy pulling teeth. But the question is, how are the dolphins helping with the forming of new Earth?
Now, say that again, sweetheart. Repeat that, please.
Sure. How are the dolphins helping with the forming of new Earth or humanity or both?
What's going on? When you go to the deepest of the deep, you go through all the layers of consciousness, from those that are super asleep and hardly listening to those that are wide awake and fully alert. Those that are in their own process of the ascension status, all the way through the Shambhala initiations and so forth and so forth. Well, what happens is they're a big part of almost like weaving a thread. Like you imagine, if you could look at the planet, mountains and all that stuff, but not really a structure, more of like, almost looks like an overview shot, but a little bit digitalized, to where there's no personal attributes, like this one's green, that one's orange, and whatever. Well, what happens is they're weaving through these beautiful streams of gold to assist with letting this be more harmonant, bringing forth another state of harmonance. And then also where they're opening doors and portals through these doors that are leaving them open for humanity to really, everyone individually, of course, but as a whole, to start really getting more in touch, especially through the heart energy they bring forth, even from off planet to on planet, that it opens these caverns, what I would call these doorways or caverns of consciousness. And it looks very much like a crystalline cavern that they go through with amplification, activation, but also keeping those streams flowing through as different portals and pathways as the energy and the consciousness on the planet arises. That's why if you go back to some of the original porpoises, you know, it's interesting how they played a major role, same, I believe, with the humpbacks and the sperm whales, and also looks like orcas and gray whales. They played major parts in Atlantis, the arising through using different crystalline technologies, using the minerals that they came to, that technically the minerals found them, but them playing with the temples of rejuvenation, playing with reversing the polarities of the body, playing with reversing even, you know, the alchemical effects to where it made it more, rather than linear, straight up and down. And they played a major role in that, and they still do, especially when it looks like everyone on land they could all use some Prozac or antipsychotics or something. And it's interesting, right? Because out there, they're doing their thing, and you're watching it doesn't really matter what continent, it's a confined piece of land. And they're watching them in different ways all around, emanate, which is watching all the beautiful dear ones, because the only ones that go insane are the ones that are holding on with all their might. Now, it's where it's pierced right there, like a big piercing one, and then and all the underlying angers, guilt, resentment, deep-seated fear, deep-seated anger, all this fun stuff. Well, it's like it all leaves when we get back to consciousness. And they're a major pinpoint here, like they see on land as like a big giant crystalline structure. And they're coming in, activating, sending frequencies, sending light, sending tones to be able to pierce and activate those internalized grid systems that are about, it goes anywhere from, looks like about 78 to about 693 feet deep into the planetary crust. Then you get, you know, the iron and all that fun stuff that are in the actual dirt, clay and all that. They also, the clay is kind of funny because it's almost like a boomerang. They hit clay and the tones, they bounce off the clay to go a different direction. And that's done very much on purpose. That was going back to some of the first originations of a prism. Not a prison, a prism.
Are you using, is that using sacred geometry to,
Yeah.
to transfer?
Yeah, because it's kind of cool. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeannie.
No, I was just saying, using sacred geometry to send messages all over the planet. So.
Exactly. So when you look at that, it's like one porpoise, let's say, off the coast of California. It would have to more so be a pod. With the emanations that they emanate and they send, you know, it's pretty awesome how technical they are, because going through sacred geometry, yes, they can reach the whole other side of the planet with those tones through all the little particles of consciousness made up with the appearance of, that's what's called water. But it's like instantaneous, just like you tune right into, oh, what's going on Saturn today? And your consciousness is right there.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not, let's just say when it's not filtered.
Mm-hmm.
So they play off one another. It goes all the way back to, what is it, like the 21 monkey syndrome or something, where one washed their food, then all the other ones started washing their food, which I still don't get because they eat lice out of each other's hair. So I'm thinking dirty food's not a big deal. So you look at this stuff, you know, the same thing applies more in the oceanic realm than with Brother Humanity. Sure, Brother Humanity still occurs, but it depends on your filters and your receptivity rather than preoccupations.
Yeah, that's an important piece. Which brings up another thing, like how did the dolphins and whales get to be here on the planet?
They come from an origination. So when I go there, I look at all the multitudes of planetary civilizations. Like everywhere has a different form. Every, like the Pleiadians to the Orions to the Arcanauts to the Plutonians, on and on. They all have a different, and Neptune and so forth, they all have a different structure. And the structures are created to what would have them animate in the body to be able to handle the elements. Like in Pleiades, it's more like a iridescent frequencies and glowing, not so much, you know, you don't go out and get your hair done, okay? Because you don't have that kind of form. Matter of fact, you don't have any hair. You might get your scalp
A bummer.
or something. Yeah, exactly. And other civilizations, they have like a, it's not metallic, but it looks metallic, like bronzish. So you look at those forms, and then you go to like the oceanic realm, specifically the dolphins and even the whales, and you look at those civilizations where they communicate via, I guess I would say telepathy, but yeah, when they started coming to go, because technically they outgrew where they were, therefore there was this stream of consciousness that started sending consciousness to this planetary template till eventually it created a form. But I think we all know it came from down in Florida, hence his flipper, you know, so we just use it. Have you seen Flipper?
Yes, I have. I love Flipper. That started me
Yeah.
off on the dolphin journey.
So they didn't come from the Everglades. That's pretty clear with that.
Okay. So are you saying that the dolphins are from the Pleiadians, or they're from Sirius?
Pleiades.
A lot of people will say that they're from Sirius or Sirius B. And and all
Yeah.
that. But you're saying they're from the Pleiades. They're Pleiades.
Yeah. And, you know, Sirius, it's a beautiful thing, especially when they give it a couple months free. You know, so, you know, Sirius XM is not where dolphins came from.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Now,
It's,
why don't you?
it's like GPS stuff.
It's like,
Well, remember the Sirius that comes with your car?
I'm sorry.
The Sirius radio. The Sirius radio?
Oh, Sirius radio. Yeah.
No, they present most of the aquatic is Neptune, Pleiades, Orion, all the way to, yeah, it does look like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and there's a planet that looks most feminine. I believe it's Venus, that they also, different species come from as well. You know, you look at the, you know, the tigers and the lions and the orcas, and they present more Pleiadian with the mammal part. I'd say the hairy ones, they're looking more Orion.
Really? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very nice. So do you think their purpose here, I mean, they're part of their mission for, and is it a different mission that the dolphins have as opposed to what the whales have, and you know, their purpose on the planet as opposed to why the dolphins are here? Or are they here for their own ascension and we're just reaping the benefits from that? Sorry, my internet.
Well, can you repeat the first part because it went quiet for a minute?
Yeah, I was just saying that the first part was the purpose of the dolphins and the whales here. Are they different of why they're here? And is their purpose part of, are they here to help humanity raise their vibration, or are they here for their own expansion and vibration, and or both? And the same for the rest.
And what's the last part?
And the same question for the whales is, are they also?
Yeah. Well, one thing, more so the whales, they're also here. Like if you look at this solar system, the Milky Way, even till about, looks like, if you put your solar system here and go through all the other solar systems, galaxies, nebulae, and so forth, each and every part, like planets in the solar system, they're all magnetically connected. That's what holds them as the solar system. Now, the whales, primarily the whales, they hold the magnetic strands, magnetic states that they emanate the magnetics, but the magnetics are also built within their very DNA through, you know, the blubber, ambergris, and all this other stuff, that it's there to be used as a counterbalance to stabilize the magnetics on the planet, including gravity, but much less magnetics that holds this whole universe together. Now, and it looks like 8, like if I put this one in the middle, out to the periphery, about 8 rungs, that would be about how far out the whales do assist in facilitating. They're also beautiful anchors that's holding solidified matter in place. And they're working a lot with that, but also a lot with, like one part's to hold and stabilize, the other part is to activate and amplify. So they have multi-facets here. And then what the purpose is, that's the part I find interesting, you know, because I look at that and there's such a beautiful mystical realm you know, it goes from the merman to all the way to being the best physicians on the planet, all the way to affecting the systems in the ocean, like ecology and things like that, ecological systems, to where they keep things in check, they keep things in harmony. And they, for humanity, that comes all the way back again to the DNA, the cells, the genetics, as well as the cleansing, which is part of the salt water part, but the cleansing of the aura, the cleansing of the flesh, the cleansing of the mind. So, and then, of course, obviously, a reminder for humanity to lighten up, to basically lighten up, play, enjoy, you know, not, you know, and then you go through Neptune, you go through Atlantis, and all the, you know, it's interesting because they're very, very smart beings, have a beautiful intelligence, but yet they play more primarily with humanity, although they do keep in check the oceanic realms, the harmonances, and also bringing forth more and more extraterrestrial sort of energies. Not like ET, you know, and all that, but more like ones that, it's kind of interesting. Humanity is emanating through frequencies and tones from this planet exponentially into the universe. And yes, it connects with on-planet, off-planet support. It goes dimensional, angelic, archangelic, extended host realms, your greater consciousness realms. But then, you know, it's cool because that's one part. The more you wake up, ascend, step into your own, embody your higher and your lower, yeah, you're eventually claiming your light bodies, on and on. Now, your light bodies still have frequencies and tones, but it's not box-inable. Like all your frequencies and tones right now, there's a focal point called the body of Jeanne. Okay, so once the whole body turns gold, light, well, now there's no more magnetic structure to anchor in that one piercing benevolence. So what happens is it becomes more in and out, go like, this is where you get into teletransporting and all that fun stuff. You know, it's where you're able to let the cells no longer be so dense, heavy, and solidified, but where you expand beyond the cells are expanding. And they actually start, spaciousness comes between them. So, you know, an atom that would be like that big is now like that big, not physically, but expansively, which allows for new.
Is that where we're going?
Yeah. Yeah. And right now, like, hey, look at this stuff. From this physical solid manifestation, although technically it's not solid, but has the appearance of being solid. Okay, well, you look at that, and then you look at it, you feel it, your soul level, your higher levels, and so forth and so forth. And soul level goes into the Akashic record realms, which goes technically into your incarnational realms. It's kind of hard to explain because it's not linear, it's dimensional. So now you have these other parts of yourself that you're wrapping up, you're clearing up, you're getting rid of this. Okay, well, that's why I'm afraid of dogs or whatever. And all those phobias from incarnational realms, issues with hypothetical authority and blah, blah, blah. Well, we're welcoming all those parts of yourself back now, but we're saying goodbye to all the gong. And that's where humanity's heading, even into your light realms, your light body. It's not living on an island somewhere, although you are, you know, but it's one of these things, right? Where we're not going into more solo journeyism. We're coming together more and more as your light beingness is arising, which says your heart's opening up, which says, here I am, all encompassing. And everyone else gets to that point eventually. So it's not about a little me. It's about thee. And that's where you find your body accelerates and accelerates. We don't have all these trivial worries. Well, it's nice living indoors this month. What about next month? And, and all that stuff where you're not trapped in those boxes. Like, you may love what you do, and I would encourage you to do it. But when you're going to work every day to sit and do something you don't want to do, well, this is where we cross that bridge of sluggishness, the body shutting down rather than the emanation.
But to me, I don't want to get into a whole big thing, but that's what's going on with this COVID-19 thing. And, do you want to, like, we're all getting back to what is really important and what really brings us joy. And we're in this lockdown mode, and we're, like, everything is back to 0 point, or like a blank sheet of paper, and we get to redefine who do we want to be. We don't have to go back to that reality that we came from. We could, like, we have a chance to reset. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, because when I first heard something about Corona, I was thinking, all right, everyone's going to sit down, have a beer, and find their beach. From here, but unfortunately, they redefined what Corona meant. Now, when you look at this, okay, you go through all of the ups and downs, back and forth. And one thing here with this whole COVID-19, whatever that means, let's just say with this symptomology, well, what dear ones are doing is a shifting of paradigms where dear ones are stepping out of all the day-to-day chop wood, carry water, wash, rinse, repeat each day, and then you reach retirement, and now what? You have no purpose, so you leave the planet. Now, the old paradigm, even survival, I think I should, ought, and must, I have to, got to do, ought to do, blah, blah, blah stuff. Well, it's forced dear ones, with very lovingly, actually. It's like the whole veil just got shattered, and now we're sitting here. Okay, well, who is this person I live with? Who are these little things running around? How do I really feel about them? And where normally you'd be so busy in your head, you kind of missed the whole ride. And then you came out, you weren't in your heart anymore. And because many, they get really confused with love or emotion. They get really confused on what that means within themselves and what it feels like. Now, so many are, obviously, you're my mate, I'm your mate, and here's our little guys running around. Okay, we got a dog. We have white picket fence, or maybe a wrought iron one, who knows? But all this stuff that you weren't able to really even acknowledge, much less enjoy, because you've been busy, wash, rinse, repeat. The next hoot and the big hurrahs get to the next promotion, the raise. And okay, well, great, we get to that. Okay, more I can take on. Okay, and now wash, rinse, repeat, and because your world starts becoming smaller and smaller, not more and more. So when COVID hit, there's that, there's the other ones that just love to complain for the sake of complaining. All of it got stopped right in its footprints, like this, where you're in a position that it's kind of forced that, and that's what the quarantining thing was about, is being in your home with your monads, with yourself, whatever it may be, and started even questioning, do I even enjoy this home? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Do I enjoy this part of the continent, country, culture, color, creed, whatever? Or, what am I doing all this for? And the light bulbs start coming on. And I hear now more people don't want to leave that state of quarantining to go back to the office, which is a whole nother unveilment of what's truly available and accessible and possible. So we're breaking all the old structures of all these old norms, even kids home from school and all this fun stuff, where this has been an awesome opportunity for the parents and the kids to really come back together, create a new relationship, really hear one another, really. And I've watched parents basically go insane because her ego didn't have anywhere to do something to this, blah, blah, blah. And to where it was technically a beautiful meltdown for them to come back to their heart. And that's really, if you look at this whole picture, you have the ones holding on to an old energy, old paradigm, trying to force waste, manipulate, control, dominate, hey, whatever floats your boat. But many are crossing the finish line right now. They said, okay, you know, I did come, and this is where we're going more into the soul level. I came to experience everything I came to experience. I came to wake up, to get to this point, that point, that point, and then have the opportunity to make a full transition or to have a new beginning. And it's kind of like going through a reincarnational principle, but without dropping the body. You're actually recreating the body, reclaiming the body, number one, and then watching how the body becomes recreated to represent you now, not the genetics, not what you're supposed to look like, not supposed to look like, not what you're supposed to walk like, talk like, be like, even all the way down to something as simple as sustenance, where you're claiming it as your own, as creator, expressing through a physical incarnational embodiment. And where it's interesting, as you go through a period, I call it a period of like a void. It's almost like feels a little bit empty. You're going through guide changes, blah, blah, blah. But then it starts speeding up and speeding up. It's like going past the finish line and waiting to start another race, if you will. You know, and then we go into a new beginning, which is all these different new opportunities, unveilments, very physically speaking, new streams of contemplation that kind of goes beyond the physical, but still you're having it through the physical. Your levels of communion, connectedness, there's that sense of remembering, that sense of all is wellness. And then you're out of the old and you're coming into, it's like a newborn coming into a full grown physical mechanism. And that's where you watch the dear ones, once they decide that, everything in their world or manifestational realms, on and on. It's so cool how it starts to all fall into alignment.
So you feel like it was all divinely orchestrated?
Oh, what was that we heard?
You feel like that was all divinely orchestrated for this to happen at this time for humanity?
Totally. And it's interesting, right? Because you look at that, it's not age associated. It's not you're a good person, bad person associated. It's not you have this money, that not that much money associated. It's pretty darn unconditional. So it's not like it's only for the elderly or only for the kids or only for the teenager, college age, blah, blah, blah. That's where you look at the bigger picture there through the divine orchestration. Because remember a couple of years ago, one of the biggest worries, concerns, some still carry it and so be it, but okay, we're running out of Earth's resources, latest and greatest. Someone wants to get take the transit to Mars or something. So, you know, and I've even got emails, funny little ads offering you to buy an acre in Mars for like $20.
Wow.
But
well, that might be worth something.
Only if you have transportation. Otherwise, they can't even measure the land for you. But these are real ads. I was laughing. I found the whole thing so funny.
Hey, that everyone, they'll sell you anything, right?
Yeah, whether it's theirs or not. Right. So it's kind of funny. And then you go through that, and as you go through it and beyond it, it's where you also start looking at what really matters to me. What really calls to me? You've done everything by the book for everyone else, but now it comes back full circle, back to your heart and a whole new journey of being true to oneself. And it's kind of interesting. It's selfless. If you're true to yourself, you're giving everyone around the same opportunity. You're basically giving them permission. Now, it's not selfish. I mean, sharing, hey, more the merrier. If you have extra, please pass it out. But from there, though, it's where we're not going against ourselves to appease and please the ego of another.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's a freedom thing.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we're about at an hour. I don't know if there's any last thing you want to say, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So if I'll check too on Facebook and elsewhere. But yeah, what is there anything you wanted to? Is there any? Woo! Sorry. Are you there?
No, I am. Yeah, it froze, so I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
But there you are again.
Yeah. Any last thing you want to say before?
So the one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, when we start our day, let's just wake up with our body, have coffee, tea, whatever, and repeat to yourself for a minute. I am loving, and lovable. And it's not a belief system. It's your natural state. So I would encourage you to say, I'm loved, loving, and lovable. All right, entourage, creator consciousness, universe, show me the truth. Because that's where you start going more into an embodiment state. Nothing to prove, technically everything to offer. But if we start our day like that for a moment, you're definitely going to see changes in the unfoldments that come into your life. Now, it seems very elementary. It is simple. But eventually, you start to embody it. Because you start saying, I'm loved, loving, and lovable. And then we have, you know, the peanut gallery called the ego over here saying, yeah, but remember that once? And you should have ran over those kids, you know, and all that fun stuff to try to talk you out of it. But it's funny because it loses its grasp, no longer has a place to hook in or hold. And you start to more and more arise, regardless of what's going on around you in this world.
Yeah, words have power for sure. Definitely.
And it's you as creator commanding it so again. Because you command all this other stuff. So like, I'm bad, I'm not pretty, I'm not unlovable, and blah, blah, blah. Now we're doing it purposefully. Because all that other stuff was based in experiences and what others have taught you and told you. Now, although when you get back to the core of why you do what you do or have done, blah, blah, blah. Well, now it's kind of like, show me. I really want to know.
Nice. That's beautiful. Okay, we're going to
just continually escalate your consciousness.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm going to let, if you guys are on Zoom, you could either raise your hand and ask a verbal question, or you can type in the chat box if you see the chat box at the bottom. I am, okay. I'm going to, this is from Nicholas Vietz. I'm probably messing up people's names, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about other sea creatures like crustaceans and sharks on a mass collective level. Is there anything that these beings are doing in relation to the impact of human infrastructure and physical changes on the earth, like shipping and commodification, as the earth increases in frequency and drops baggage? It's a long question. Do you get all that?
That part increases in frequency and what else?
And drops baggage.
Yeah. What's going on here is the crustaceans, all the way to the reefs, even the deep canyons in the oceanic realm. Well, all these beings, they're stabilizing to allow, it's kind of like undoing the whole idea of the Bermuda Triangle, which is a big giant vortex. That's what it is. Well, these attributes, when you go through them, you look at what they're offering, what they're expressing, but also all the, if you can take your consciousness to each and every crustacean and put a long stream of light, well, it goes all the way in a singularity stream into the platelets of the plants, is that it goes exponentially from there, and it starts sending off these different leveling of the templates that when we get back to planetary changes, shifting, yeah, the templates are actually changing, and they're here to anchor in a smooth and easy one rather than having the planet open up an overkill of a crevasse that, you know, implodes upon itself. They're there as stabilizers there to assist for the templates, including the fault lines, to be here but be level. That's why, you know, technically, I mean, a good example would be, how is Hawaii livable with volcanoes? This is a great example why. It's keeping the balance in a certain alignment that allows for the land piece. And even, you know, you go back to all these other civilizations where the land piece is not like just land. There's little caves, caverns, attributes that hold the land, parts of the land afloat. All of these through these crustaceans, but also these caverns, they're holding in such a beautiful format to, and it's like, it goes like this, like crisscross. Then there's ones that go down, ones that go up, ones that go to the right, the left, and how they're so intertwined. So you go, it reminds me, I guess, kind of like all the neural pathways of the brain. As you go through the neural pathway, they're playing, which in Alaskan Triangle stuff, on and on. Well, these different portals, which technically are kind of like wormholes or vortexes, that is where the planet is opening up, and it's part of where the planet is also diffusing all the buildup that it had endured. That's one part. Volcanoes are another part. Sinkholes are another part. On and on and on. It's counterbalancing and counter leveling itself in every direction to be able to keep the core of the planet from, let's just, I guess I would say, demineralizing, and keeping the core of the planet more, I mean, it's interesting. I'd say solid, but it's not solid. There's so many portals and caverns within the core and the source of the planet. It's not like a big ball of lead. Now, it's where it's helping with stabilize that, which in turn keeps oceanic travel, ships, cargo ships, blah, blah, blah. It's keeping them, what I would say, buoyant, because it's sending off the different arrays within the water, molecularly speaking, that lets other things, you know, beyond the obvious, okay, you know, it's hollow and, you know, oxygenation and that, no oxygen down here, you know, all this fun stuff. Well, it's keeping the holes to a state where, I mean, common sense says you put a big lead boat on water, it's going to sink. So that's common sense as far as I'm concerned. But I'm like, how do airplanes fly, right? You got a big tube of fuel, it's got to land somewhere. Now, it's the same idea, because it's helping with the buoyancies to keep everything moving up and down, side to side, but then the fluidness too, and how it's supporting the boats, but more importantly, I would say humanity. It's supporting even the oxygenation on land. It's playing a big part within that through the oceanic realms. And then you know, there's so many more dimensions to all this. So many more beings. There's in parts of the oceanic realms, there's crystalline caverns that are also amplifiers, which is where technically, you know, you go back with the orcas and even, you know, dolphins and gray whales as well, humpbacks as well. Well, there's these crystalline caverns that keep them, I guess I'd say, keep them amplified, lively, multiplying, that is like the receiver of the tone. So if you could put yourself in that world for a moment, you know, I remember this when I was scuba diving at Hoover Dam when I was finishing up the course. Well, the thing there was that all the particles, when I was 60 whatever feet down, everything turned into particles of light. All molecules of water, every being. And then, you know, it's kind of tough to find the top at that point. But nevertheless, this is what these crystalline caverns look like. It's not just a crystal underwater. These are actual caverns which all go back to dimensional portals as well. And they go through, you know, forget metaphysics for a minute. They go ethereal, they go mystical, they go celestial. And these are all giant portals where, that's why they keep discovering city after city, civilization after civilization. Well, yeah, there's so much more to come, all the way back to the hypothetical prehistoric, I'll say human species, not sound sexist, men, whatever, because it wasn't all men. Otherwise, it would never existed. So from here, where it all comes back, oh, what's that?
It wouldn't be any fun.
Well, I'm telling you, you can imagine that. Just blah.
Planet of men? No, that would not be fun.
Yeah, like I went on a date with myself. It gets kind of colorful. And now from here, though, you look at this stuff, right? Going way back and all the way through the portals, dimensional portals within the oceanic realms. Once again, like Bermuda's Triangle, blah, blah, blah. Well, it goes well beyond Bermuda. These things are everywhere. I've experienced them off the coast of California where I used to live. And it's cool because you can be with them and there just as much right now as you are wherever you're in a body on a planet. That's how interdimensional. That's helping hold, for one, the ascension lattice work. Number two, I'll say new species, let's just say undeveloped and unexposed species that are all parts of holding fabricated matter in place, being that of templates. Does that better clarify that?
I guess, yeah, it sounds good to me. Does anybody in the group have a question? If you want to you could raise your hand on the video, or you can make a note in the chat. There is someone that said, well, I'm not even going to try to remember half of this, going to enjoy the second time around. It's in the replay. I will also be listening to the replay to download half of what you just said. So someone, anyone there? Everyone's in the Zoom is quiet, so I'm going to go back to Facebook, and feel free to type in your question. So Hyla Vedir, everything in the quantum level is being mirrored here in the 3D. That's the question that she has.
Now, what is it again?
Everything in the quantum levels is being mirrored here in the 3D. She's asking that as a question.
No.
Do you want to?
Well, that was the answer. I was just saying.
Okay. Do you want to just leave it at that?
To simplify it, the quantum levels, you got to remember, quantum levels, ethereal levels, they're the mirror effect. Put it this way. The karmic lattice work ended. It dissolved. Still, your ones are waking up from what it was, how it was going, waking up rather than being a sheeple, waking up to what is. Now, the quantum levels in the quantum verses and so forth, well, those are different levels. Those are different segues. Those are different spaces and places that your parts of yourself are existing and animating at this moment in time. The physical levels, when we look into and through the physical world, what you're seeing in your physical world has so much to do with just simple identifications to what you've given power to and perceived to be real for yourself. Now, in the quantum levels, it's kind of like it's a huge level that you walk through it and there's nothing but spaciousness, technological attributes. And this is where we get back to numbers. We get back to sacred geometry, but on steroids. So we're playing with encodements of consciousness throughout each and every molecule through the quantum levels that nothing has form. There's all these little particles of consciousness with all these encodements of consciousness. For some, I don't want to say numbers because they all look like symbols. Symbols that represent all the areas, like some have what I would say Egyptian symbols, others have Mayan, others have Incan. of all and everything that is, where you start to be able to access all of these, and where they start to become downloaded, they start to become exposed. Each and every one unravels itself, and it's kind of interesting. Every particle that unravels itself, there's another quadrillion years of data and information, and that's just one particle. And then you take the mental level, it's just impossible for the mental mind to process all of it at once, because you would end up frying the mind and take it away in a little white coat. But at least you'll always be hugging yourself. Now from here, this is where we go through the quantum levels to where matter before matter was ever created to be matter. So we're going beyond, we're going through the manifest, through the unmanifest, and then through the spaciousnesses within the quantum levels of before there was even an ideal of the manifestations, because it was a state of wholeness, completeness, not a state that if I have this or that, or I'm lacking this, I'm lacking that, if I had all this other stuff, I will finally be okay. And then it goes from okay to finally being loved, and it goes from being loved to finally being wanted, going from wanted to desire. All these different interesting pinball machines kind of thing, kind of playing ping pong with your levels of consciousness. So when we go to that state, let's all just take a breath for a moment, just in through the nose, all the way down into below the navel. Let's just hold as long as we can. Then as slow as you can, with your lips in a position like you're blowing or whistling as slow as you can. Just exhale as slow as you can, like let's really just sink right into you, not so much the body, but those areas, those levels of silence. The thoughts are scattering out. They're becoming less and less projected. Where you can right here, right now, feel yourself expanding upon, expressing upon, radiating through, more and more endlessness, to where there's not a contemplation of anything, where you're in this state of what I would say all-knowingness, all accessibility. There's no end to how far we can expand. Let's just let the body take another deep breath, just really feeling the sensation of the particles of light that are coming into the physical form. Even feeling the sensation where the whole physical form starts to feel more and more translucent. To where eventually it's so translucent that it's almost like reach-throughable, because there's no density, there's no heaviness, there's no weight. And just letting ourselves go further and further into before consciousness was split off with the magnetics to even create a manifestation, where we just are. We're beaming, gleaming, you're priceless. But right now, we don't have anything we have to search for, prove, step up to. Right here, right now, all is truly well. There's no defenses, no offenses. No time, no clocks, no identification to the body or yourself of being affected by a perceivable timeline. That was man-made. We no longer fit into a zodiac. Let's just be right here. Endless. Now, this right here is when we start going into the multiverses, quantum verses, on and on and on. Now, for the mind wants something to translate. The ego wants to put it in a box. But isn't it interesting? Not even through a body are you encapsulatable. Isn't that interesting?
It's pretty cool. So,
what's that, Mary?
Choose our body. Can I choose to be a dolphin?
Well, when you go there, you have the choice. You have the choice of 3 family monads. So it's always fun to look around and see, why did I choose this one? I hear that more than anything. But it's funny, right? Because you're encouraged out of the choice of 3 to pick the one that's the toughest. So we're not just going with Richie Rich and all that stuff. We're picking the toughest. And I say that from your higher levels, but I also really am meaning it through the soul level. You pick the ones that are the toughest, so you would ensure to yourself, this isn't someone doing anything to you, but for yourself, that you would ensure that you would pick the ones the toughest, that we're not going to play codependency, we're not going to play, okay, you be a this, you be a that. We're not going to get stuck back in the Ferris wheel or merry-go-round of the Akashic record realms and falling asleep, never getting your attention. You wanted to ensure that this is where many, that's where psychiatry took off, same with medications, that so many different ones felt and feel like they don't belong anywhere. They feel like they have a family monad, mom, dad, grandparents, whatever, but it's like they always feel on the outside, like they don't fit in, they don't blend in.
Like
but it's kind of interesting, right?
Adopted.
Because when we go back
when
to
are they
the
going to tell me I was adopted?
Oh, what's that, sweetheart?
Like, when are they going to tell me I was adopted?
Yeah, it's kind of fun, right? Because it's like, once you wake up, you can never go to sleep again. Once you wake up, which is what you were setting yourself up to do, it's not just waking up from all of creation. It's waking up from the old karmic lattice work, the old paradigm, and really, like that, who am I? Because all that other stuff just falls away because it doesn't have the ability to grasp onto you. Because within yourself, something's off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have the different senses of the solar plexus. You walk into a room, is it tight, is it loose? Sometimes it can be confusing because sometimes it's your own fear, but we're often denied. It's a state, I say fear/judgment, but it's a state, a backup state of your guidance. You go into a room, it's tightened up, we step back, we take a breath. All right, show me what's going on. Where we're being clear, but then receptive to now. You could watch all the games, gimmicks, whatever it may be, which is what you're really picking up on, is all the unsaid words, the underlying agendas and intentions. And that's where it starts becoming clearer than ever, because we're not acting or reacting to it. You have that thud in your solar plexus out of love from your entourage, your higher levels, creator consciousness, saying, hey, we want to give you a heads up because something's off here.
Yeah, I have a different relationship with my body.
Can we say, show us more?
I have a different relationship.
Oh, what's that, sweetheart?
I have a different relationship with my body now because before I was kind of angry at my body at certain things, when things are not functioning perfectly, or you have stomach issues or back issues or whatever issue, and it's like, why aren't you functioning perfectly like you should be? And it's really just your body communicating with you and telling you, right, that messaging you, hey, pay attention, there's something here for you.
Yeah, because, it's interesting, right? Because if you play a game with it, even using your body as, with kinesthetics, standing up, making a statement, it has to be a statement, not a question. The body doesn't understand questions, it understands statements. So I could stand up and say, my name is Will, and most likely it'll lean forward or start to tilt forward. And I'll come back, say, my name is Jack, and it's going to go back. And then, because that part's just discerning a clear test. And the only time I encourage this, it's just a step for oneself, with even realizing that they have a body, they're not the body. They have a mind, but they're not a mind. And then we go from there to where the whole point here is eventually you're going to start to stand up and do that, and you're already going to have the answer right there. Before you ever even move a muscle, you ask the question, there it is. You ask this question, there it is. You ask for this unfoldment, there it is. You ask a how to, there it is. This is just another pathway of going right through the third eye, right through all the filters, right into the pineal and pituitary glands, and also technically the pleasure center of the brain, to where eventually it's a constant flow, constant stream, one being you, the big you, second being the body, and third being the mind. So we're able to segregate those for a moment, and I know we talk a lot about integrating, but yeah, I want you to integrate with you through the body, not as the body. You integrating through the mind, not as the mind. And it's fun because all these things that we're sharing right now, whether it be physical pain, emotional breakdowns, whether it be rah, because any way you look at it, judgment is judgment. But the other part of judgment, it's this whole, it's called fear, but then you go beyond the fear, and the only thing fear is a lot of misinterpretations, if you really break it all the way down.
Nice. So we're coming to the end. There's one last question I want to get to. This is from Judy Link, who's also watching us here on Zoom. Is it a positive event when whales get beached on the beach? Is that a positive event or not?
Well, if we look at it in positive and negative, I would say both, if you put them back in the water, because the positiveness is so beautiful. They're showing their beauty on the beach. It's actually confirmation to humanity that when you're listening, that the grids are no longer like that, they're like that. Or their magnet, because they follow grid systems. That's how they do the birthing and all that fun stuff. Now, one part about them showing up on the beach that I do love about it, and I find to be very beneficial, there ones walk up to a whale. I've seen it with sea turtles. I've seen it with baby dolphins, and their heart opens up. That, I would say, is priceless.
Yes. Now,
I would encourage you, heart open and everything else, to, give it a wag and push it back out to sea. But because, it's gracing you with its beauty. It's doing what it came here to do, which was to open your heart. And now, what you fault, like save a talk, which is going to affect every kingdom.
Yeah.
Sound like fun?
Sounds like fun. I want to let people know, there's, of course, now the questions are coming in, but we're running out of time. So I want to let people know how they can get a hold of you. And I know you donate to the Animal Kingdom, which is awesome, an organization.
We're co-founders at a sanctuary. Yeah.
Oh, you're the co-founder. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Where is that sanctuary?
That's in Kaua'i, Arizona. It's about 45 minutes out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nice. Very nice. What kind of animals do they have there? Tigers?
Well, yeah, I wish. That place used to be down there, but now that moved somewhere else. I think somewhere in Texas. but now we, in Arizona, it's pretty awesome because they have cats, dogs. Most recently, they had like some sort of gray horned owl or something that people brought there because I had a messed up wing. Then it goes from there to, you know, turtles, birds. There's really no end. The most common would be the canines and the felines, though.
Nice. Well, that's good.
And yeah, and coyotes here and there.
Oh, wow. So there's a couple of things that you offer on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
I think you call them truth talks.
Yeah, with Bonnie Saratori from the White Flame Institute. I think that's what it's called. Yes, we do truth talks about once a month for an hour, hour and a half or so. And that's on Zoom and I think teleseminar or something like that. Yes, there's many ways to join. And then we also do our monthly explorations where we do a webcast as well as a phone event where, and we answer questions, but there's also a subject for the month. And then we offer our one-on-ones. And what are we offering? We're also offering, I've been recording podcasts with Mike Connell on my days off. So we're going to start putting that up any day now.
Oh, that's exciting. Very good. So people can reach you at williamlinville.com.
Yeah, perfect.
Did I say that right?
No, better than I did.
Yeah, and they could reach me at dolphintouch.org, and I'm here on Kaua'i, and you're there in Tennessee, and we're going to do another class coming up. Did you know this? I hope you do this. Do you want to say the name of the next class, or do you, something about becoming?
Okay, well, the topic, what I'm looking at is becoming the embodiment of love / light and true heart openings that really embody your light bodies, being an instrument of light in the universe, keeping chaos and conflicts out of your mind, body, and aura, letting beneficial changes happen for you on all levels of your life and in all levels of your life. Yeah. And also so much more, because a lot of it's going to go to where the group goes.
Great. So we're going to be doing that at the end of this month, and we'll record that and share that as it comes, as it forms. Does that sound good?
That sounds awesome.
Anything else you want to share?
I'm feeling pretty good. Just that you're loving, and lovable. It's just
so are you.
Yeah.
So every morning we got to say we're loved, loving, and lovable. Is that right?
Yeah, and then watch how your day unfolds. Because it's a reminder, you know, and eventually you're just about another affirmation. It's about I'm loved, loving, and lovable, higher levels, manifest levels, creator levels. Universe, show me.
Yeah, universe, show me. What else is possible? All right.
Yeah, because you start watching new manifestations come in.
Yeah. And we get out of the way and let the universe take care of the details. Great.
Having a blast.
Thank you so much, Will, for joining us today, and all the people on holding space on the call and on Facebook. There's a lot of people there too. And I'm excited for our class coming up. Stay tuned for details on that. And we will see you soon. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you to Mary and Mike and all those people behind the scenes that helped make all of this happen. And the dolphins and the whales, of course, my special connection with friends over there. They're going, they're very happy.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been an honor and a blast. And thank you, Miss Jeannie, for putting this together, sweetheart.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's been a joy. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Hey, bye. Bye.
Bye.